Hello again, everybody. I'm Josh Bean from AL.com. I'm here with Jeff Sentell. We're here to recap the 2014 Super 7. Jeff, we didn't have a lot of close games again this year. Based on what we saw this year, last few years, what trend do you see developing out of these games?
Well, the Super 7, to be blunt, wasn't super, Josh. I mean, I think to me, it's great in Alabama high school football when people can look back and say, hey, remember that Super 7 championship game between so-and-so and so-and-so? You need to have about 2 or 3 of those, I think, for the state championship format to work. I think we've got these 7 classes. We've got 7 new layers of playoffs. We've got an extra champion. And here's what's happening. We're losing a little bit of competitive balance. I went back and looked through the record books, and you have to go to 2011. That was a Hoover-Prattville thriller to find the last Super 6 or Super 7 state championship game that was decided by a touchdown or less. Thankfully, the nightcap game, Clay Chalkville and Saraland, as like Coach Jerry Hood said, he's like, man, we may have saved the Super 7 a little bit. And I kind of buy that because everything else in my book was pretty much a stinker of a game.
Yeah, there were, Saraland and Clay Chalkville, clearly they played the best game of the weekend, went right down to the wire. That's what you expect to see in the state championship game. We didn't see that. This was the first year that we've had 7 classes. It's the first year we've had 7 championship games. I guess what I'm hearing from you is we hoped that adding another class might improve competitive balance, but ultimately that's not what happened.
Well, when you have 7 games across 3 days, and this is in an SEC cathedral, a great, wonderful stage, Josh, am I wrong to think that we should not have 2 or 3 great games and not just one, which was the last one? I think what's happening is we always had that before where, the second round game was really good and it was almost the real state championship game, but I can look in 4A, I can look in 6A, I can look in 7A. There's a lot of games, except for that Clay Saraland game in 6A, where you're like, man, I wish that could have been the state championship game. And to me, the best that Alabama high school football can be is when those state championship games are thrilling. And I'm of the opinion that I would look to another way. This is better. This is better. How do we make better? Is I think we need to find another way to make sure those state championship games are thrilling.
And so we keep seeing these runaway games in the championship round. You've studied this a little bit for the last few days. What's the solution? How can we make it better?
Well, I'm not going to be one of those old guys that says something's wrong, something's bad, and then I offer up a solution. My thought would be reseeding the playoffs. And I broached the subject with several coaches at the Super 7 this week, and they were all like, yeah, great idea. Let's think about it. Let's think about it. And like, well, who does it? And I said, media members? Maybe. Coaches? Maybe. AHSA officials? Probably not. But there needs to be a group of thinkers, not kind of like the College Football Playoff Committee or anything, but a group of thinkers that would reseed the playoffs at the beginning of the playoffs. And, I threw up one red flag about travel, but one coach told me very bluntly, he said, man, it's the state playoffs. You're supposed to get in a bus and travel across the state. And if you did that, maybe one side of the bracket, the number 1 team would be on one side, and then the other side of the bracket, the number 2 seeded team would be on the other side. And then the game everybody wanted to see would happen at Alabama or happen at Auburn, and that's your best chance for a thrilling game.
And, there aren't any plans to do this right now, but did you get a sense that at least that coaches and administrators may be open to this sort of proposal?
Well, I think coaches are into it because they would rather just have a great game because, listen, I didn't enjoy it, and a lot of coaches didn't enjoy it who made the trip to Montgomery and the game's 49-0 in the third quarter, or the game's 70-43, or Fife and Elba was competitive for a while, but then Fife then blew away. And I think you're just supposed to grow the game. We've already going to have this imbalance, I think, a little bit where maybe the best teams in the state don't play each other anymore with 6A and 7A. So what I'd like to see is as much as we can do to be made, whatever tinkering we can do to make sure the state championship games offer the biggest recipe for excitement.
And I think Jeff's right. I think we do want the state championship games to be special. We want them to be big games. We want them to be memorable. In the last few years, we simply haven't seen that. You can look back at all of our coverage of the Super 7 or follow all of our coverage of high school sports at AL.com or AL.com/high school. Thanks for watching.